amongst other things.
But you understand the gravity of this moment.
I most certainly do, Mr. Chairman.
I want you to really hear this, Mr. Cohen. We will not tolerate lying to this Congress by anybody. We're in search of the truth. You understand that?
I do.
Now, the president has also made numerous statements that turned out to be inaccurate. For example, he said he knew nothing about the hush money payments to Ms. Clifford. And his 2017 financial disclosure form said he never owed money to reimburse you for those payments. Yet, in your testimony, Mr. Cohen, you said that you met with the president in the Oval Office in February of 2017 and discussed his plans to reimburse you for money you paid. You say he told you, and I quote, "Don't worry, Michael. Your January and February reimbursement checks are coming." Is that accurate? And was that in the Oval Office?
The statement is accurate, but the discussions regarding the reimbursement occurred long before he became president.
So, no, see, a rat is someone that snitches and they tell the truth. Michael Cohen is not telling the truth. And let me explain to you something. If Donald Trump is a racist, if he's a charlatan, if he's a gangster, that makes Michael Cohen worse than him. Because this is the man that knew he was a racist, but decided not to say anything to anybody. This is the man that knew he was a so-called gangster and decided to keep it from the American public. This man said these are horrible things about the president. And he only said them when the Illuminati came and forced him to make up a story. The one thing we understand is that there is a group of individuals who aren't interested in Hillary Clinton as much as they're interested in Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton is a fact that she colluded with Russia. It's a fact she colluded with Russia. They didn't ask anything about Hillary Clinton whatsoever. This is a staged and orchestrated attempt to sabotage the president's chances of the 2020 election. The one thing they don't understand is that the world sees this. The world sees this. He was disbarred yesterday. By all means, he's going to get sued for everything that he has. Because there's something called attorney-client privilege. I do agree some things that he said could have been correct as far as trying to buy the Buffalo Bills. I mean, when you know, this is business. In the world of business, things like this happen. Could he have tried to hide the affair from his wife? Shit, did you see how fine she is? I would. I wouldn't want my wife to leave me. So how do you make it sound authentic? You mix tiny bits of truth with a whole bunch of fucking lies. That's how.
Would you explain that?
Back in 2017, when, actually I apologize, in 2016, prior to the election, I was...
Remember when we talked about body language?
Contacted by Keith Davidson, who is the attorney.
There's no need for him to keep looking down to his left. There's no papers in front of him with the answer. So if he knew something, if he's telling the truth, he will be able to look you directly at your eyes and tell you directly the truth.
Was the attorney for Miss Clifford, Stormy Daniels. And after several rounds of conversations with him about purchasing her life rights for $130,000, what I did each and every time is go straight into Mr. Trump's office and discussed the issue with him. When it was ultimately determined, this was days before the election, that Mr. Trump was going to pay the $130,000. In the office with me was Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization. He acknowledged to Alan that he was going to pay the $130,000 and that Alan and I should go back to his office and figure out how to do it. So yes, sir, I stand by the statement that I gave. There was a history to it.
In your testimony, you said you bought some checks. Is that right? You said you bought some checks.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you about one of these. This from the Trump Trust that holds the president businesses. Can you tell me who signed this check?
I believe that the top signature is Donald Trump Jr. And the bottom signature, I believe, is Alan Weisselberg's.
And can you tell me the date of that check?
March 17th of 2017.
Now, wait a minute. Hold up. The date on the check is after President Trump held his big press conference claiming that he gave up control of his businesses. How could the president have arranged for you to get this check if he was supposedly playing no role in his business?
Because the payments were designed to be paid over the course of 12 months, and it was declared to be a retainer for...
Donald Trump Jr. does not run Donald's businesses. Eric does. Eric is in charge of Donald Trump's businesses. The holes in the story is ridiculous.
Services.
Give me 1 second. I need me a soda pop.
Provided for the year of 2017.
Was there a retainer agreement?
There is no retainer agreement.
Would Don Jr. or Mr. Weisselberg have more information about that?
Mr. Weisselberg, for sure, about the entire discussions and negotiations prior to the election, and Don Jr. would have cursory information.
Now, here's another one. This one appears to be signed by Donald Trump himself. Is that his signature?
That is Donald Trump's signature.
So let me make sure I understand. Donald Trump wrote you a check out of his personal account while he was serving as president of the United States of America to reimburse you for hush money payments to Ms. Clifford. Is that what you are telling the American people today?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
One final question. The president claimed he knew nothing about these payments. His ethics filing said he owed nothing to you. Based on your conversations with him, is there any doubt in your mind that President Trump knew exactly what he was paying for?
There is no doubt in my mind, and I truly believe there's no doubt in the mind of the people of the United States of America.
And these new documents appear to corroborate what you just told us. With that, I'll yield to.
I will make sure that you and I meet one day while we're in the courthouse, and I will take you for every penny you still don't have, and I will come after your Daily Beast and everybody else that you possibly know. So I'm warning you, tread very effing lightly, because what I'm going to do to you is going to be effing disgusting. You understand me? Mr. Cohen, who said that?
I did.
And did you say that, Mr. Cohen, in your testimony on page 2, you said you did things for Mr. Trump in an effort to protect him? Was that statement that I just read that you admitted to saying, did you do that to protect Donald Trump?
I did it to protect Mr. Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump.
And in your sentencing statement back in December in front of the judge, you said this, Mr. Cohen: my weakness can be characterized as a blind loyalty to Donald Trump a blind loyalty that led me to choose a path of darkness. Is that accurate, Mr. Cohen?
I wrote that.
You wrote that and said that in front of the judge. Is that right?
That's correct.
Let me read a few other things here, and let me ask you why you did some of these things. When you filed a false tax return in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, was all that out of blind loyalty to the president?
No, it was not.
Ha ha ha. So what are we doing now? See, now we understand what it is. The Illuminati knew what he did, put pressure on him for his own tax returns, and then got him to get up here and make up these fucking ridiculous stories to push it to make it seem like his criminality was based on the contingency of what the fucking president told him to do. How many years did he put up false and flagrant tax returns? How many years? Hold on. Let's go back. Let's go back.
Why you did some of these things. When you filed a false tax return in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, was all that out of blind loyalty?
5 years straight. Before Donald even felt like running for the President of the United States of America, this man was falsifying paperwork to the IRS on his tax returns. He's going straight to jail. Straight to jail. None of those things had anything to do with Donald Trump. That was a greedy motherfucking man who was being purely greedy. The one thing I know about a piece of shit rat is that they will lie and say anything they can to get themselves out of trouble. We already know that the Mueller, who was in charge of the 9/11 investigation, which was a complete fucking sham, a complete sham. Hold on, let me do some breaking down credibility here. I'm in a fucking good mood this morning, and don't worry, the show will continue on until we have our guests. I'm in a real fucking good space this morning, man. Real good space. Hold on. Let me show you something.
The 9/11 hijackers are alive and well. That's according to the chief of Japan's Democratic Party, who says 9/11 is a hoax. Dr. David Ray Griffin is a professor and author who wrote the book, The New Pearl Harbor Revisited. He joins us from Santa Barbara, California. So I'm guessing that you think that, and this is just an assumption on my part, that maybe this parliamentarian from Japan may have a point in determining whether 9/11 was really a hoax or not?
Oh, absolutely. The physical evidence is so strong for the destruction of the World Trade Center by explosives that we're really in the level of proof now, not conjecture. So on that score, I've just written a book on World Trade Center 7. It's called The Mysterious Collapse of World Trade Center 7, Why the Official Story, the final official account of 9/11 is unscientific and false. And I, in that book, give a massive amount of evidence that's been compiled by scientists, architects, and engineers that all three buildings, although in that book I focus on World Trade Center 7, were brought down by explosives. There's simply no other possibility. And the only way that NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which wrote the official report, the only way they were able to deny that was to commit massive scientific fraud, which in simple words simply means they lied, and they lied.
Dr. Griffin, the politician who I'm talking about in Japan, his name is Yukihisa Fujita, and his claims are that 8 of the 19 hijackers are still alive and well, that this was all created by not necessarily terrorists, but people who are trying to benefit off the stock market. How much of this are you buying? How much of this argument are you buying from Mr. Fujita? Or do you believe that it is kind of an inside job, but for other reasons?
Well, first of all, we have to be careful about this Washington Post editorial. Fujita himself says that they really distorted what he said. So we can't take that too seriously. But that said, certainly let's take the issue of the hijackers, whether there were 8 or so. We certainly know that some were still alive after 9/11.
We know some were still alive after 9/11. And actually, there is 8. 8 out of the 19 named are still alive. Are still alive. And they've actually tried to sue Mueller so Mueller can take their names off the list.
Heard them say that a paper passport fell out of one of the towers and was picked up by a police officer on the street. This plane flies into the building, explodes with jet fuel out of the guy's jacket, goes through the fireball, through the side of the plane, out of the burning building, out of the fire shooting out, and comes down to the ground unscathed. But something happened. For 6 months, they reported they had this passport. Boy, we've got it. We've got the proof. And then the guy stood up and was alive in the Middle East, and they pulled it and said, oh, that was a mistake. He wasn't a hijacker, and the story just disappeared.
So what about the hijackers? It's the funniest thing, but at least 9 of them are still alive. Walid al-Shari is a Saudi Airlines pilot in Casablanca, Morocco. Wael M. al-Shari is alive and well. Abdulaziz al-Amari is a Saudi Airlines pilot living in Saudi Arabia. Mohand al-Shari is alive in Saudi Arabia. Khalid al-Madar is a computer programmer in Mecca. Salam al-Hamzi works at a chemical plant in Yanbo, Saudi Arabia. Saeed al-Ghamdi is trained to be a pilot in Tunis. Ahmed al-Nami is an administrative supervisor for Saudi Airlines.
See, fuck the Illuminati. Fuck these false flag staged attacks. Mueller, who was an Illuminati puppet, who got all of Clinton's Illuminati puppets involved in this investigation, went to this piece of shit here and scared them and said, if you don't say what the fuck I need you to say, I'm not only going to make this shit fucked up for you, but you're never ever going to get out of jail. Never. And then this little fuckboy started to make up everything he fucking could about Donald Trump. The whole world knows there's an Illuminati. There isn't an American in this country that is not aware of the Illuminati. Of all the celebrities taking pictures doing this, or doing this, or doing this. All of the celebrities throwing up the Satan sign and doing this. We are all aware of what these animals are out here doing. Let's get back to this piece of shit.
Loyalty to the president?
No, it was not.
When you failed to report $4 million in income to the Internal Revenue Service, did you do that to protect Donald Trump?
No, I did not.
And when you failed to pay $1.4 million in taxes, I got constituents who don't make that in a lifetime. When you failed to pay $1.4 million in taxes to the U.S. Treasury, was that out of some blind loyalty to the President of the United States?
It was not. But but the number was 1.38 and change, and I have paid that money back to the IRS at this time.
I think the American people will appreciate that 1.3.
And I would also just like to say it was over a course of 5 years, approximately $260,000 a year.
Yeah, and that's what I said, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2000, that's 5 years.
Yes.
Got it. When you made false statements to financial institutions concerning a home equity line of credit, taxi medallions, and your Park Avenue apartment in 2013, 2014, and 2015, you pled guilty to making those false statements to those banks. Was that all done to protect the president?
No, it was not.
How about this one? When you created the fake Twitter account, Women for Cohen, and paid a firm to post tweets like this one. In a world of lies, deception, and fraud, we appreciate this honest guy at Michael Cohen, hashtag TGIF, hashtag handsome, hashtag sexy. Was that done to protect the president?
Mr. Jordan, I didn't actually set that up. It was done by a young lady that worked for Redfinch, and during the course of the campaign, which you would know gets somewhat crazy and wild, we were having fun. That's what it was, sir. We were having fun.
Was it done to protect the president?
That was not done to protect the president.
Was it a fake Twitter account?
That was a real Twitter account. It exists.
You pay a firm to create this.
I didn't pay the firm to do
Cohen.
that. It was done by a young lady that works for the firm. And again, sir, we were having fun during a stressful.
I will post the link to Terrence's GoFundMe later, and I also will be posting a link to Gangsters for Trump as well.
Full time.
The point is, Mr. Cohen, did you lie to protect the president, or did you lie to help yourself?
I'm not sure how that helped me, sir.
I'm not sure how it did either.
Right. And I would like to also note that more than half the people on that site are men.
Here's the point. Chairman just gave you a 30-minute opening statement, and you have a history of lying over and over and over again. And frankly, don't take my word for it. Take what the court said. Take what the Southern District of New York said. Cohen did crimes that were marked by a pattern of deception and that permeated his professional life. These crimes were distinct in their harms, but bear a common set of circumstances. They each involved deception and were each motivated by personal greed and ambition. A pattern of deception for personal greed and ambition, and you just got 30 minutes of an opening statement where you trashed the President of the United States of America. Mr. Cohen, how long did you work for Donald Trump?
Approximately a decade.
10 years?
That's correct.
You said all these bad things about the president there in that last 30 minutes, and yet you worked for him for 10 years? All those bad things, I mean, it's that bad. I can see you working for him for 10 days, maybe 10 weeks, maybe even 10 months. But you worked for him for 10 years. Mr. Cohen, how long did you work in the White House?
I never worked in the White House.
That's the point, isn't it, Mr. Cohen?
No, sir.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not, sir.
You wanted to work in the White House.
No, sir.
You didn't get brought to the dance.
Sir.
But now?
I was extremely proud to be personal attorney to the President of the United States of America. I did not want to go to the White House. I was offered jobs. I can tell you a story of Mr. Trump reaming out Reince Priebus because I had not taken a job where Mr. Trump wanted me to, which is working with Don McGahn at the White House General Counsel's office.
Oh, and you worked for the president.
Sorry, one second. What I said at the time, and I brought a lawyer in who produced a memo as to why I should not go in because there would be no attorney-client privilege. And in order to handle some of the matters that I talked about in my opening, that it would be best suited for me not to go in, and that every president had a personal attorney.
Here's what I see. I see a guy who worked for 10 years and is here trashing the guy he worked for 10 years. Didn't get a job in the White House. And now you're behaving just like everyone else who's got fired or didn't get the job they wanted, like Andy McCabe, like James Comey, same kind of selfish motivation after you don't get the thing you want. That's what I see here today, and I think that's what the American people.
Mr. Jordan, all I wanted was what I got, to be personal attorney to the president, to enjoy the senior year of my son in high school and waiting for my daughter who's graduating from college to come back to New York. I got exactly what I want.
Exactly what you want.
What I wanted.
Prison.
That's right.
Gentlemen,
I received exactly what I wanted.
Gentlemen, time is expired. Ms. Washington Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cohen, thank you for being here today. As you likely know, I served as the chair of the Democratic National Committee at the time of the Russian hacks and when Russia weaponized the messages that it had stolen. But I want to be clear. My questions are not about the harm done to any individual by WikiLeaks and the Russians. It's about the possible and likely harm to the United States of America and our democracy. I have a series of questions that I hope will connect more of these dots. Mr. Cohen, is it your testimony that Mr. Trump had advanced knowledge of the Russia WikiLeaks release of the DNC's emails?
I cannot answer that in a yes or no. He had advanced notice that there was going to be a dump of emails, but at no time did I hear the specificity of what those emails were going to.
The emails that showed that Hillary Clinton was a fucking Hillary Clinton was a fucking criminal. The emails that dump and expose that there's a fucking Pizzagate. Why are they trying to protect these emails? The emails wasn't a hack. Seth Rich died because he gave those emails up to Julian Assange. See, the people who don't know what's going on, who's not really, watching everything, and of course, some of them are going to believe this piece of shit. They're going to believe him. But for those who understand what's going on and read those fucking documents, those documents that disclose Hillary Clinton as being a vicious fucking gangster, a murdering piece of shit, that's what destroyed her campaign.
But you do testify today that he had advanced knowledge of their imminent release.
That is what I had stated in my testimony.
And that he shared that outcome.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Trump likely share this information with his daughter?
Another Illuminati puppet. Look at this bitch down here talking to him.
Or Ivanka, son Don Jr., or Jared Kushner?
I'm not aware of that.
Was Ivanka, Jared, or Don Jr. still involved in the Russian tower deal at that time?
The company was involved in the deal, which meant that the family was involved in the deal.
If Mr. Trump and his daughter Ivanka and son Donald Jr. are involved in the Russian Trump tower deal, is it possible the whole family is conflicted or compromised with a foreign adversary in the months before the election?
Yes.
Based on your experience with the president and knowledge of his relationship with Mr. Stone, do you have reason to believe that the president explicitly or implicitly authorized Mr. Stone to make contact with WikiLeaks and to indicate the campaign's interest in the strategic release of these illegally?
Sean Hannity made contact with Julian Assange live on television and sat down and interviewed him. Is Sean Hannity now part of Russian collusion? Is it illegal to sit down with Julian Assange? I just need to know. Is it illegal to sit down with Julian Assange and ask him questions? Is it illegal to sit with Julian Assange and ask questions? This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, people.
The hacked materials.
I'm not aware of that.
Was Mr. Stone a free agent reporting back to the president what he had done? Or was he an agent of the campaign acting on behalf of the president and with his apparent authority?
No, he was a free agent.
A free agent that was reporting back to the president what he had done?
Correct. He frequently reached out to Mr. Trump, and Mr. Trump was very happy to take his calls. It was free service.
Roger Stone says he never spoke with Mr. Trump about WikiLeaks. How can we corroborate what you are saying?
I don't know, but I suspect that the special counsel's office and other government agencies have the information that you're seeking.
Moving on to a little later in 2016, a major WikiLeaks dump happens hours after the Access Hollywood tape is released. Do you believe or are you aware of Mr. Trump coordinating or signaling for this email dump?
I am unaware of that. I actually was not even in the country at the time of the Billy Bush tape. I was in London visiting my daughter.
Knowing how Mr. Trump operates with his winning at all costs mentality, do you believe that he would cooperate or collude with a foreign power to win the presidency? Is he capable of that?
It calls on so much speculation, ma'am. It would be unfair for me to.
I understand, but you have a tremendous amount of experience. Mr.
Trump is all about winning. And he will do what is necessary
and in
within
your
which to win.
opinion and experience.
Hold on, wait a minute. I want to do something real quick. I need to do this real quick. I need to do this real quick. Woo-wee. He said Mr. Trump is with the winning at all costs. Damn, I like the sound of that. I like winning at all costs. I like that. I like that Donald Trump is a winner at all costs. Give me 1 second. I gotta take care of this. iTunes just jumping in. I plugged my computer up. They're acting like little idiots. Hold on, man. Hold on. We gotta
protect the sheep. You gotta catch the wolf, and it takes a wolf to catch a wolf. You understand?
Now I want to tell you something, man. See, I'm a wolf, and the shit this man is saying, it fits him, his agenda.
Would he have the potential to cooperate or collude with a foreign power to win the presidency at all costs?
Speculation.
Yes.
Based on what you know, would Mr. Trump, or did he, lie about colluding and coordinating with the Russians at any point during the campaign?
So as I stated in my testimony, I wouldn't use the word colluding. Was there something odd about the back and forth praise with President Putin? Yes, but I'm not really sure that I can answer that question in terms of collusion. I was not part of the campaign. I don't know the other conversations that Mr. Trump had with other individuals. There's just so many dots that all seem to lead to the same direction.
And finally, before my time expires, Mr. Cohen, the campaign and the entire Trump organization appeared to be filthy with Russian contact. There are Russian business contacts.
You mean like Hillary Clinton giving 20% of our uranium to Russia? Bill Clinton receiving $500,000 in speaking engagement fees? The Clinton Foundation receiving a total of over $300 million from Russian businessmen, bankers, and the Kremlin? You mean that? Why the fuck aren't they talking about Hillary Clinton? You think about it. It's a fact this bitch gave 20% of our uranium to Russia and got paid for it. It's a fact Barack Obama was stated saying, which he thought was off camera, that he would have more flexibility because this is his second term, and to tell Putin that. Why is it that all of these politicians wanted to be friends with fucking Putin and even gave this motherfucker a start over button? But the moment Donald Trump said, we should be cool with Russia, there's a problem.
There are campaign Russian contacts. There are lies about all of those contacts. And then we have Roger Stone informing the president.
Anybody sitting here watching this shit and believe in any one of these dirty ass Democrats after they destroyed your fucking communities and robbed you blind are fucking idiots. And you're the reason why these people of the people of this country is facing what we're facing right now. A bunch of godless, gutless pieces of shit who will do anything in this fucking world to put this planet in a one-world prison and reduce the population, destroying the people like you and me that currently exist.
And just before the Democratic National Convention, that WikiLeaks was going to drop documents in the public arena that we knew at that point were hacked and stolen by Russia from the Democratic National Committee.
The gentle lady's time has expired. You may answer her inquiry.
My question is,
Quickly.
given all those connections, is it likely that Donald Trump was fully aware and had every intent of working with Russia to help make sure that he could win the presidency at all costs?
So let me say that this is a matter that's currently being handled by the House Select and the Senate Select Intelligence Committees. So I would rather not answer that specific question, other than just to tell you that Mr. Trump's desire to win would have him work with anyone. And one other thing that I had said in my statement is that when it came to the Trump Tower Moscow project, it was worth hundreds.
Didn't this bitch have to step down from the DNC? Didn't she have to step down from the DNC? Isn't it true that Hillary Clinton bought and ran the DNC? That means that she was signing this bitch's checks? How fucking stupid do you gotta be? They think the American people is clearly stupid. Every last one of you voting Democrats, they think you're dumb as fuck. You're gonna eat this shit up. Because you're dumb. You dumb. You're dumb as fuck.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. And we never expected to win the election. So this was just business as usual.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
State of Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member Jordan, the chairman in this committee have promised members of the American people a fair and open process. Yet the Democrats have vastly limited the scope of this hearing. They've issued a gag order to try to tell members of this committee what we can and cannot talk about. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle claim that they want the truth, that they want transparency and fair oversight. Yet the Democrats' witness to testify before Congress today is none other than a scorned man who's going to prison for lying to Congress. Let that sink in. He's going to prison for lying to Congress, and he's the star witness to Congress. If you read the sentencing report on Mr. Cohen, words like deceptive and greedy are scattered throughout that report. It paints a picture of a narcissist, a bully, who cannot tell the truth, whether it's about the president or about his own personal life. But today, he's the majority party's star witness. If the Democrats were after the truth, they'd have an honest person here testifying. And if they were really after the truth, they'd not restrict the questioning to just a few topics. But let's take a look at those restricted topics. Mr. Chairman, the first topic in your limited scope that I can ask Mr. Cohen is about the president's debts. But Mr. Chairman, didn't Mr. Cohen plead guilty to lying to banks about his personal finances? So we're asking a guy going to jail for lying about his debts to comment about the president's debts. He's the expert. Mr. Chairman, your next couple of topics say that I can ask Mr. Cohen about the president's compliance with financial disclosures and campaign finance laws, but didn't Mr. Cohen on 2 occasions break campaign finance law with his own donation? So again, the majority party's star witness on the president's compliance is a guy who broke compliance laws himself. Mr. Chairman, you graciously allow us to ask questions of Mr. Cohen on the president's dealings with the IRS and tax law. Your star witness here broke the law with regards to the IRS at least 5 times. He pled guilty on cheating on his taxes, lying to the IRS. He's the best witness you got? Next up, with the permission of the chairman, I get to ask Mr. Cohen about his perspective on the president's business dealings. Let me get this straight. The witness lied to multiple financial institutions to get loans to pay off other loans just to keep himself afloat, and he's going to be the expert on business practices. Obviously, Mr. Chairman, the witness may produce documents that he suggests incriminates the president, yet he lies to banks. All of those lies were done on fraudulent documents. Documents that he forged. Nothing he says or produces has any credibility. Apparently, he even lied about delivering his own child, which his wife had to correct the record of. Ladies and gentlemen, how on earth is this witness credible? With all the lies and deception, the self-serving fraud, it begs the question, what is the majority party doing here? No one can see this guy as credible. He will say whatever he wants to accomplish his own personal goals. He's a fake witness, and his presence here is a travesty. I hope the American people see through this. I know the people back in Tennessee will. And with that statement, sir, I have a few questions of the witness. With your loss of your law license, I think you mentioned in your opening statement that you had been disbarred. What is your source of income in the future?
I don't expect I'm going to have a source of income when I'm in federal penitentiary.
What, is there a book deal coming or anything like that?
I have no book deal right now in the process. I have been contacted by many, including for television, the movie. If you want to tell me who you would like to play you, I'm more than happy to write the name down.
I'm sure
I
there's
will also like to turn around and just to correct your statement on the no.
Well, let me ask one other question though. I only have a limited amount of time.
No individual.
One quick question. Who paid your expenses to be here today?
Who's paid my expenses
to be here today?
I paid my expenses.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield the remaining of my time to the ranking member.
Mr. Cohen, how many times did you talk to the special counsel's office?
7.
Did they talk to you at all in preparation for today's hearing between the 7 times you talked to him prior to your sentencing? Have you had any conversations with the special counsel's office between sentencing and today?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
You talked to him 7 times. That's in the sentencing memorandums that were in front of the court back in December. What I'm asking is how many times you've talked to the special counsel's office since then, up to today's appearance here in Congress.
The gentleman's time has expired. You may answer the question now. You said one question.
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that.
Maloney.
Wasn't.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See, he didn't want to answer that?
Mr. Cohen?
Did you not see he didn't want to answer that? Did you not see he didn't want to answer that? I understood what the fuck he asked him. Did you speak with the special counsel before today's testimony? It was just that fucking simple.
In your 10 years of working for Donald Trump, did he control everything that went on in the Trump organization? And did you have to get his permission in advance and report back after every meeting of any importance?
Yes. There was nothing that happened at the Trump organization, from whether it was a response as the Daily Beast story that you referred to, Ranking Member, that did not go through Mr. Trump with his approval and sign off, as in the case of the payments.
How many times did the President, Michael, ask you or direct you to try to reach settlements with women in 2015 and 2016?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't have the answer to that. I'd have to go back and try to recollect. It's certainly the 2 that we know about.
And why do you think the president did not provide the accurate information in his 2017 financial disclosure form? What was he trying to hide? He corrected other forms, but he didn't correct this one.
The payments on the reimbursement of the funds that I extended on his behalf.
Can you elaborate more?
Well, going back into the story, as I stated, when Alan Weisselberg and I left the office and we went to his office in order to make the determination on how the money was going to be wired to the IOLA, the interest on a lawyer's account, for Keith Davidson in California, I had asked Alan to use his money. Didn't want to use mine, and he said he couldn't, and we then decided how else we can do it. He asked me whether or not I know anybody who wants to have a party at one of his clubs that could pay me instead, or somebody who may have wanted to become a member of one of the golf clubs. And I also don't have anybody that was interested in that. And it got to the point where it was down to the wire.
Over 60 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. And you mean to tell me you couldn't find somebody who wanted to be down with his golf club? This motherfucker lying, I want to be down with his golf club.
It was either somebody wired the funds and purchased the life rights to the story from Miss Clifford, or it was going to end up being sold to television, and that would have embarrassed the president and it would have interfered with the election.
How so? Bill Clinton got his dick sucked right here in the Oval Office, and that shit brought his approval ratings through the roof. Through the fucking roof. If you tell me my president is getting his dick sucked by porn stars, you think I'm not going to get this man? You think I'm not going to get this man his just due? You think I'm not going to... Give me one more. He's getting his dick sucked by porn stars. Yeah. Yeah. What the fuck? He piping down porn stars. These is bitches who getting fucked on a regular. That man said he got a pipe game and he ain't afraid to use it. So why the fuck would he hide it? Then it's clearly extortion. If you don't pay me to be silent, I'm going to tell everyone your business. That's why that bitch got to pay him back now. It was extortion.
But the president has never amended his 2017 form to this day. And while you're facing the consequences of going to jail, he is not.
Well, I believe that they amended a financial disclosure form, and there's a footnote somewhere buried. I don't recall specifically what it says, but there is a footnote buried somewhere.
Can you describe, Michael, to the American people, catch and kill?
So catch and kill is a method that exists when you're working with a news outlet. In this specific case, it was AMI, National Enquirer, David Pecker, Dylan Howard, and others, where they would contact me or Mr. Trump or someone and state that there's a story that's percolating out there that you may be interested in. And then what you do is you contact that individual and you purchase the rights to that story from them.
And you practice this for the president?
I was involved in several of these catch and kill episodes, but these catch and kill scenarios existed between David Pecker and Mr. Trump long before I started working for him in 2007.
Every rich person got somebody that does a catch and kill. Every rich person.
Michael, can you...
Michael going to jail. I can't wait to find out what prison he going to. We going to get you real comfortable, Michael. Michelle. Underwear washer. You're going to be the cook, the Maytag, and the sex doll, Michael.
Yes, who else this committee should talk to for additional information on this or anything else?
Yes, I believe David Pecker, Dylan Howard.
In any real court of law, this piece of shit wouldn't be a credible witness. He couldn't be used in any real court of law at all, period.
Larry Levine of AMI as well, Alan Weisselberg, Alan Garten, Trump Organization as well.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And Mr. Chairman, this is a story of redemption.
Thank you.
Now she gives him a story of redemption. You fucking old, bitter, dried up, bought and paid for, sick, Satanist bitch.
Mr. Comer.
Mr. Cohen, in your testimony, you stated that you began work for the Trump Organization as a lawyer dealing with real estate transactions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Prior to coming to Congress, I'd served as the director of 2 different banks, so I've seen hundreds of loan applications. And to try to determine your credibility here today, I just wanted to ask you a couple of real estate transaction questions just to see how, in fact, you operate. According to the Southern District of New York prosecutors, you lied to banks to secure loans by falsely stating the amount of debt you were carrying. Mr. Cohen, my question to you, was it Donald Trump's fault that you knowingly committed a crime of deception to defraud a bank?
No, it's not.
Was that fraudulent loan you obtained for the Trump Organization or for you personally?
It would be for me, though I'm not familiar with which loan that you're referring to.
Look, that's how many loans he done
fraudulated.
Sorry,
I would like just to respond. When
we're
talking about the home equity line of credit, which is what I believe you're referring to,
we're also referring. I'm going to ask a question
no
pertaining to your summer home that you purchased.
I never purchased a summer home. No individual or no bank in the 22 years that I've had loans have ever lost a dollar with me. I owe no money to any bank.
Well, the banks usually find out if someone's trying to deceive them.
In 22 years, I have no money
loyalty
that's ever been owed
Mr. Cohen,
to any individual or any bank.
Mr. Cohen, did your so-called blind loyalty to the president cause you to defraud the bank for your own personal gain?
Sir, I take exception to that because there has never been a fraud I never defrauded any bank.
Well, let's dig a little deeper on that, on the bank fraud. According to the Southern District of New York, you failed to disclose more than $20 million in liabilities, as well as tens of thousands of dollars of monthly expenses. That's according to the Southern District of New York. Now, Mr. Cohen, you being a lawyer, surely you knew you were breaking the law. No, why would you have done that?
Sir, I'm not a CPA, and I pled guilty. I'm going to prison as a result of it.
You're a con?
No, sir.
Because you're a con, you're going to jail. You're not going to jail for anything but the fact that you fucked up on tax forms. Excuse me, y'all. I'm going to need you guys to give me 5 seconds. I have to get dressed for a special guest we will have on the show in a few moments after we're done with this fuck boy right here. And, you know, I want to be able to throw a suit on real quick. Just get my shit off. You know what I'm saying? It's time for me to start stepping this YouTube channel up. I'll be right back.
Guilty, and I am going to be doing the time.
And we're gonna make sure this guy's real comfortable as the Maytag.
Caused tremendous pain to my family, and I take
let's go back to the one last question about the bank. When the bank found out about the liabilities that you failed to disclose, you lied again to the bank. This is according to the Southern District of New York. It said it had been expunged when in fact you just shifted the debt to another bank. So apparently, according to the information that we received, your intent to defraud the bank was for the desire to purchase the summer home for $8.5 million?
No, sir. That would have been off of an equity line, considering I had less than a 50% loan to value on the assets, and there was a pre-existing line of credit that existed years before the date that you're referring to, where this is all surrounding New York City taxi medallions.
But you understand that when you fail to disclose liabilities, especially $20 million in liabilities, that is, in fact, fraud.
Except even with the $20 million in liability.
How much was it?
The medallions were at that time worth over $45 million.
Mr. Cohen, you called Donald Trump a cheat in your opening testimony. What would you call yourself?
A fool.
You calling... Okay, well, no comment on that.
I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, we said we were in search of the truth. I don't believe that Michael Cohen is capable of telling the truth. And I would hope that as this committee moves forward, that when we have the opportunity to subpoena witnesses, we subpoena witnesses that are not recently disbarred, are not convicted felons, and witnesses that haven't committed bank fraud and tax fraud. That is how we're going to determine the truth. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield the balance of my time to the ranking member.
I think it's young for you. I would just make one point. We just had a 5-minute debate where Mr. Cohen disputes what the Southern District of New York found, what the judge found, that he was actually guilty of committing bank fraud. If this statement back here doesn't say it all, Cohen's consciousness of wrongdoing is fleeting. His remorse is minimal. His instinct is to blame others. Is strong. There's only one wrong with that statement. His remorse is non-existent. He just debated a member of Congress saying, "I really didn't do anything wrong with the false bank things that I'm guilty of and going to prison for."
Mr. Jordan, that's not what I said, and you know that that's not what I said. I said I pled guilty, and I take responsibility for my actions. Shame on you, Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Chair,
not what I said.
Mr. Chairman,
not what I said. What I said is I took responsibility.
My wife likes to see me in a suit.
What I was doing is explaining to the gentleman that his facts are inaccurate. I take responsibility for my mistakes. All right, I am remorseful, and I am going to prison. I will be away from my wife and family for years. So before you turn...
Oh, wait a minute. Wait one damn minute. Reggie? Woo-wee! Yeah. The real reason why I put a suit on is because my wife, she loves to see me in a suit. You know what I mean? This type of thing drives her crazy. You feel what I'm saying? And when I throw a suit on with no shirt,
around and you cast more dispersion. Please understand, there are people watching you today that know me a whole lot, but I made mistakes. I own them, and I didn't fight with the...
A mistake is something you didn't mean to do, and you did it without knowledge. He's a criminal. The judge says he's a lying piece of shit. He's incapable of telling the truth and accepting responsibility for his actions. When a senator stood up there, a congressman stood up there and said to him, "You defrauded a bank." He said, "No. But when you lie to a bank, it's defrauding a bank. It's defrauding a bank."
Southern District of New York. I didn't put the system through an entire scenario, but what I did do is I pled guilty, and I am going to be, again, going to prison.
Ms. Norton.
Mr. Cohen, at the center of...
He is not going to prison. He is going to a federal camp. He's going to a camp. That shit is in no way a prison. Because I've been to a prison. He's not going to prison. He's going to a camp. People will be smoking, fucking in cars outside. Everything you could think of will be going on in there. They'll have cell phones, all type of shit. He's going to be in Club Fed.
The reasons you're going to prison is conviction for campaign finance violations. And they center around some salacious revelations. The Washington Post reported or aired a Access Hollywood video. It set a record for the number of people who crashed the newspaper's server. But this happened in early October, on the cusp of the election. What was Mr. Trump's reaction to the video becoming public at that time? And was he concerned about the impact of that video on the election?
The answer is yes. As I stated before, I was in London at the time visiting my daughter who was studying there for a Washington semester abroad. And I received a phone call during the dinner from Hope Hicks stating that she just spoken to Mr. Trump and we need you to start making phone calls to the various different news outlets that you have relationships with. And we need to spin this. What we want to do is just to claim that this was men locker room talk.
Was the concern about the election in particular?
The answer is yes. Then couple that with Karen McDougal, which then came out around the same time, and then on top of that, the Stormy Daniels matter.
Yeah, and these things happen in the month before the election and almost one after the other. The Stormy Daniels revelation, where prosecutors and officials of the prosecutors learned of that.
Hurry up, bitch! You only got a little bit of time.
And prosecutors stated that the officials at the magazine contacted you about the story, and the magazine, of course, is the National Enquirer. Is that correct? That they did?
Yes, ma'am.
Come to you. Were you concerned about this news story becoming public right after the Access Hollywood study in terms of impact on the election?
I was concerned about it, but more importantly, Mr. Trump was concerned about it.
That was my next question. What was the president's concern about these matters?
Oh, is she concerned that someone gave her a light Caesar but did not give her a shape up at all?
Becoming public in October as we were about to go into an election.
I don't think anybody would dispute this belief that after the wildfire that encompassed the Billy Bush tape, that a second follow-up to it would have been.
No one gave a fuck about Donald Trump, Stormy Daniels, or the Billy Bush tape. No one wants a president that's not getting pussy. We distinctly picked him because he gets pussy, and the other one had one, and she doesn't even give it up. That's why her husband is running around raping and shit like that. Why the fuck aren't the Democrats talking about how Bill Clinton raped Miss Juanita Broderick? Why weren't they bringing that up? Like, seriously, y'all, come on, man. Go to the average person right now in the street and ask them, do you believe that there's an Illuminati? And they're going to say, yes. Go to the average black motherfucker in the inner city right now and ask them, do you believe that there's an Illuminati? They're going to say, yes. Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, got over $300 million from Russia. Bill Clinton got $500,000 just to speak in Moscow. And then 20% of the United States uranium went to Russia while she was in the State Department. They keep saying Russian collusion and Russian hacks. Russia can barely afford to feed the people they have. China has more of a capability, but they're not talking about China. And China has tried to hack and interfere with our elections plenty of times. They're not telling you that China owns our largest port in the United States of America, which is in California, and Bill Clinton sold it to them. They've been selling this country out for the fucking longest, and no one is asking questions about the Clintons. The idea for the Illuminati is to put what they want in your face to keep the truth from you. George Bush Sr. once said, if the American people find out what we're really up to, they will chase us down the street and lynch us. All of them are in cahoots together. These people are not your friends. They are not working in your interest. They are working for the Illuminati. They are working for the private bankers who are putting them up to this. That's why there's a deal in place called the New Green Deal, which will strip everyone of their fucking wealth, leave you in $600,000 debt, and bankrupt a nation for a budget of $93 trillion fucking dollars.
Pleasant, and he was concerned with the effect that it had had on the campaign, on how women were seeing him, and ultimately whether or not he would have a shot in the general election.
And so you negotiated the $130,000 payment.
The $130,000 number was not a number that was actually negotiated. It was told to me by Keith Davidson that this is a number that Miss Clifford wanted.
Well, you finally completed that deal, as it were, on October the 25th, days before the election. What happened in the interim?
Contemplated whether or not to do it. Wasn't sure if she was really going to go public. There's, again, some communications back and forth between myself and Keith Davidson. And ultimately it came to either do it or don't. At which time, again, I had gone into Mr. Trump's office, as I did after each and every conversation. And he had told me that he had spoken to a couple of friends, and it's $130,000. It's not a lot of money, and we should just do it. So go ahead and do it. And I was at the time with Alan Weisselberg, where he directed us to go back to Mr. Weisselberg's office and figure this all out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Meadows.
Mr. Cohen, do you know Lynn Patton? I'm right here.
Oh, yes, sir.
Do you know Lynn Patton?
Yes, I do.
I asked Lynn to come today in her personal capacity.
Our next story will be on Jen Moore. We will have a story on that. We have to.
To actually shed some light, how long have you known Ms. Patton?
I'm responsible for Lynn Patton joining the Trump Organization and the job that she currently holds.
Well, I'm glad you acknowledge that, because you made some very demeaning comments about the president that Ms. Patton doesn't agree with. In fact, it has to do with your claim of racism. She says that as a daughter of a man born in Birmingham, Alabama, that there is no way that she would work for an individual who was racist. How do you reconcile the two of those?
As neither should I, as the son of a Holocaust survivor.
But, Mr. Cohen, I guess what I'm saying is I've talked to the president over 300 times. I've not heard one time a racist comment out of his mouth in private. So how do you reconcile it? Do you have proof of those conversations?
I would ask you to.
Do you have tape recordings of those conversations?
No, sir.
Well, you taped everybody else. Why wouldn't you have a tape?
That's also not true, sir. That's not true.
You haven't taped anybody?
I have taped individuals.
How many times have you taped individuals?
Maybe 100 times over 10 years.
Is that a low estimate? Because I've heard it's over 200 times.
No, I don't think. I think it's approximately 100 from what I recall. But I would ask
so why would
you ask me a question, sir?
Do you have proof? Do you have proof? Yes or no?
I do.
Oh, where's the proof?
Ask Ms. Patton how many people who are black are executives at the Trump Organization. And the answer is
Mr.
zero.
Cohen, we can go through this. Here, I would ask unanimous consent that her entire statement be put in the record.
Without objection.
All right, let me go on a little bit further. Did you collect $1.2 million or so from Novartis?
I did.
For access to the Trump administration?
No, sir.
Well, why did you collect it?
Because they came to me based upon my knowledge of the enigma, Donald Trump, what he thinks.
So they paid you,
sir, please let me finish.
No, did they pay you $1.2 million to
yes.
give them advice?
Yes, they did. A multi-billion-dollar conglomerate came to me looking for information, not something that's unusual here in D.C., looking for information, and they believed that I had a value.
So how many
And that
times
the
did you meet
value
with them?
was the insight that I was capable of offering them.
How many
and they
times?
were willing to pay.
How many times did you meet with them? For $1.2 million, how many times did you meet with them?
I provided them with both in-person as well as telephone access whenever they needed.
How many times?
How many
That's
times,
a
bitch?
question,
I
Mr.
don't,
Cohen.
I don't recall, sir.
So did you ever talk to them?
I spoke to them on several occasions, yes.
How many?
6 times.
6 times. Wow. $200,000 a call.
Sir, I also would like to,
All right,
I
hold
also
on.
would like to bring
This
to
is
your
my
attention
5 minutes,
the
Mr.
contract.
Cohen, not yours. Did you get money from the Bank of Kazakhstan?
It's not a Bank of Kazakhstan. It's called BTA.
BTA Bank, Kazakhstan BTA Bank. Did you get money from them?
I did.
For what purpose?
The purpose was because the former CEO of that bank had absconded with over between $4 to $6 billion, and some of that money was here in the United States, and they sought my assistance in terms of finding, locating that money, and helping them to recollect it.
So are you saying that all the reports that you were paid, in some estimates over $4 million, to have access and understanding of the Trump administration, you're saying that all of that was just paid to you just because you're a nice guy?
Well, I am a nice guy, but more importantly,
Well, I would beg to differ. The record reflects that you're not a nice guy.
Each and every contract.
The record reflects that he's a fucking criminal.
Contract contained the clause in my contracts that said I will not lobby and I do not do government relations work. In fact, Novartis sent me their contract, which stated specifically that they wanted me to lobby, that they wanted me to provide access to government, including the president. That information, that paragraph was crossed out by me, initialed, and written in my own handwriting. Says, I will not lobby or do government relations work.
So Novartis representatives say that it was like they were hiring a non-registered lobbyist. So you disagree with that?
I don't know what they said, sir, but the contract speaks
Have you ever
for itself.
contacted anybody in the administration?
Yes.
To advocate on behalf of any aspect of any of your contracts? I ask unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman. I ask unanimous consent.
The gentleman's time has expired. You may answer the question.
I don't know what you're referring to, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cohen, I'm pleased you agreed to testify today voluntarily.
Yeah, because I'm a house nigga selling out as many niggas as I fucking can. So I'm glad you here. Because instead of us getting a credible witness that we could use, we went and got you. We asked you to come here because we knew you'd throw him under the bus because you now work for us. You are our bitch now. So I'm truly, truly, truly grateful that you're our bitch and you're going to get up here and lie as much as we ask you to. Without you, there would be no more Trump hysteria for us. So we are glad to have you here to commit all the bullshit we need you to.
In my view, we are all here for just one reason, and that's the American people are tired of being lied to. They have been lied to by President Trump. They've been lied to by the president's children. They have been lied to by the president's legal representative. And it pains me to say that they have been even lied to by his congressional enablers who are still devoted to perpetuating and protecting this giant con game on the American people. Now,
why weren't they so interested when George Bush lied to the American people and said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction? Why weren't they talking about impeaching George Bush after they found out He lied about the weapons of mass destruction. And even Colin Powell said he was forced to make those statements that he didn't want to make, and then he stepped down from his post. Why weren't they concerned then? These people don't care about the American people. They have an agenda. This is the Illuminati. This is what it is.
Mr. Cohen, I'd like to talk to you about the president's assets. Since by law,
I can tell you, pussy boy, he richer than you is.
These must be reported accurately on his federal financial disclosures and when he submits them for a bank loan. Mr. Cohen, you served for nearly a decade as then businessman Trump's personal attorney and so-called fixer. Did you also have an understanding of the president's assets and how he valued those items?
Yes.
In November of 2017, Crane's New York Business reported that the Trump organization provided, quote, flagrantly untrue revenue figures going back to at least 2010 to influence Crane's ranking of the largest private companies in New York. According to the reports, while the Trump organization reported nearly $9.5 billion in revenues in 2016, public filings suggested revenues were actually less than 1/10 of that. To your knowledge, did the president or his company ever inflate assets or revenues?
Yes.
And was that done with the president?
Name one businessman that doesn't. Hold on. I have to have my beautiful wife make me some burrito, baby. Sounds so good to me.
Knowledge or direction?
I don't want to even hear this fuck
Everything
boy.
was done with the knowledge and at the direction of Mr. Trump.
Tell us why he would do that and what purpose did it serve.
It depends upon the situation. There were times that I was asked, again with Alan Weisselberg, the CFO, to go back and to speak with an individual from Forbes, because Mr. Trump wanted each year to have his net worth rise on the Forbes wealthiest individuals list. And so what you do is you look at the assets and you try to find an asset that has, say, for example, 40 Wall Street, which is about 1.2 million square feet. Find an asset that is comparable. Find the highest price per square foot that's achieved in the area and apply it to that building. Or if you're going off of your rent roll, you go by the gross rent roll times a multiple, and you make up the multiple, which is something that he had talked about. It's based upon what he wanted to value the asset at.
You know, you have provided this committee with copies of the president's financial statements or parts of them from 2011, 2012, and 13. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit those for the record. Mr. Chairman, I'd like.
Bitch, if he submitted them, they're already on record. My wife is such a good woman. She's like, this Michael Cohen thing is just so sad. No, baby, it's not. It proves that there is an Illuminati. That's what it does. It proves that there is an Illuminati. That's what it does.
To submit the statement to the record. Now, Mr. Daughter, thank you. Can you explain why you had these financial statements and what you used them for?
So these financial statements were used by me for two purposes. One was discussing with media, whether it was Forbes or other magazines, to demonstrate Mr. Trump's significant net worth. That was one function. Another was when we were dealing later on with insurance companies, we would provide them with these copies so that they would understand that the premium, which is based sometimes upon the individual's capabilities to pay, would be reduced.
And all of this was done at the president's direction and with his knowledge?
Yes, because whatever the numbers would come back to be, we would immediately report it back.
And did this information provided to us inflate the president's assets?
I believe these numbers are inflated.
And of course, inflating assets to win a newspaper poll to boost your ego is not a crime. But to your knowledge, did the president ever provide inflated assets to a bank in order to help him obtain a loan?
But you may answer that question.
These documents and others were provided to Deutsche Bank on one occasion where I was with them in our attempt to obtain money so that we can put a bid on the Buffalo Bills.
Thank you for your answer.
Mr. Heise, Georgia.
I'd like to yield a second to the gentleman from North Carolina. I thank the gentleman for yielding. I want to ask unanimous consent to put into the record an article from STAT which indicates that Mr. Cohen's promise to access not just Trump, but also the circle around him. It was almost as if we were hiring a lobbyist, close quote. I ask unanimous consent.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that we put into the record a criminal referral for violating Section 22 U.S.C. Of the statute number 611. I ask unanimous consent that my letter referring Mr. Cohen for violating FARA for illegal lobbying activity be entered into the record.
Without objection to order.
I ask unanimous consent that the first order of...
See what this did? This got this motherfucker more prison time. Hold on, wait a minute. Wait. Let me get that round of applause. Start it over. I need one more clap. I need one more. Because you going to jail some more. Give me some more. Nigga going to prison? Give me some more. You going to jail, man. The fucking idiot. You got to be the dumbest motherfucking lawyer in the history of lawyers. First, you cop out to a fucking plea to financial campaigns when he used his own funds and it's not against the law to take your own money and pay a bitch off to shut the fuck up for sucking your dick. It's not against the law. It's his money. No one donated to Donald Trump's campaign. He didn't take my money and paid for a motherfucking porn star. He took his own hard-earned money and paid for a fucking porn star. This is the only dickhead that pled guilty to a crime that's not a fucking crime. The worst lawyer in history of fucking lawyers. Second, the feds need 2 or more witnesses cooperating what this dickhead is saying in order for them to hold him as a credible witness, and Congress knows it. There is no one else saying the shit that he's saying. He's saying it by his motherfucking self. He's saying it by his motherfucking self. He's saying it all by himself. No one else corroborates what the fuck he's saying. He's saying it by himself. And federal law means in order for them to take the hearsay that he's saying, they need 2 or more individuals corroborating it. Preferably 3 people. They don't have that. He is the worst character witness in the history of Congress. Hold on, wait, because I want to go back. I want to go back to the gentleman here. I want to give the gentleman here all the respect needed, because I'm happy that Michael Cohen just fucked himself.
Thank the gentleman for yielding. I want to ask unanimous consent to put into the record an article from STAT which indicates that Mr. Cohen's promise to access not just Trump, but also the circle around him. It was almost as if we were hiring a lobbyist, close quote. I ask unanimous consent.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent.
You fucked. He fucked.
A criminal referral for...
He looks just like a fucking mole, too. He looks just like a fucking mole. That's what he looks like a fucking groundhog. That's what he looks like.
Violating Section 22 U.S.C.
He's looking at his Democrat Illuminati puppeteers, and he's looking at them like, what's going on? What's going on? I thought I wasn't going to be charged. Oh, no, bitch. You going to get charged.
Of the statute number 611, I ask unanimous consent that my letter referring Mr. Cohen for violating FARA for illegal lobbying activity be entered into the record.
Without objection to order.
I ask unanimous consent that the first order of business for this committee is for us to look in a bipartisan way at criminal referrals at the next business meeting.
These are not documents. They're objecting. They're objecting.
So we're objecting to a unanimous consent request? Is that what, Mr. Chairman?
I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Yes.
I will yield back.
All right. Now let me be clear. Mr. Height, I'm going to give you your whole 5 minutes. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To you. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Meadows, the chairman made me the ranking member made me aware that I had given a little more time to Ms. Washington Phillips. I was going to let you do that anyway. But I just want the committee to know that because there's so many, I'm going to be quick on this 5 minutes. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Heights, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cohen, you claim that you've lied, but you're not a liar. Just to set the record straight, if you lied, you are a liar by definition. You also said a moment ago that the facts are inaccurate. If they are facts, they are accurate, and that would make you inaccurate. But I'd like to take a moment to, I'd like to know who you consulted with to prepare for today's hearing, Lanny Davis and who else?
I consulted with my counsel, Lanny Davis, as well as Michael Monaco.
All right. Did you or Michael or Lanny Davis or anyone else cooperate with the Democratic majority to prepare for this hearing?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Did you or anyone else on your team cooperate with the Democrat Party in preparing for this hearing?
We've spoken to the party.
Okay. Did you prepare with Chairman Cummings or anyone on your team?
I'm sorry. What do you mean by prepare?
Prepare for this hearing.
Prepare. I prepared with my counsel.
Did you prepare with the Democrat majority or Chairman Cummings?
We spoke with Chairman Cummings and the party.
With Chairman.
Get it out.
Spoke with Chairman Schiff and his his people as well.
Were there any other individuals acting as a liaison for you with the majority party?
I'm sorry, sir. What are you saying?
Did you have a liaison other than these that you've mentioned who were working with the majority to prepare for this hearing?
Yes, we spoke with the various individuals that you just raised, yes.
Tom Steyer, regarding him or any of his representatives, anyone associated with him, is he or any of them paying Lanny Davis to represent you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Who is paying Lanny Davis?
At the present moment, no one.
So he's doing all this work for nothing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I hope so.
I kind of doubt it. But how did Lanny Davis come to represent you? Did he approach you or did you approach him?
I reached out to Lanny Davis at the recommendation of my former counsel over at McDermott, Will, and Emery, who knew Mr. Davis. And
so you reached out to Mr. Davis?
I did, yes, initially.
Okay. So did you want to testify before Congress, or did he urge you to testify here?
I was asked to come here, and I am here, sir, voluntarily, because it's
who asked you, bitch?
My question: Did he ask you to come here?
No, sir.
Okay, because he says that he did ask you to come here, and that he convinced you, and also that he did the same with Chairman Cummings as well. So your testimony here is that you approached Lanny Davis to represent you and to come here. He did not persuade you to come here.
He did not persuade me. Actually, Chairman Cummings, which is part of the conversations that we engaged in with his people, as well as Chairman Schiff and others, we spoke in order to ask me to come here voluntarily.
I find the connecting of the dots here with Mr. Davis and you, and frankly the chairman and perhaps others, to be rather stunning that there is an agenda for all this happening here today. And I believe, frankly, that that's to bring the president down, to impugn the president. You made an oath last time you were here, and that oath meant nothing to you then. We had an oath here in this very room about a month ago, and it was, quote, "Be clear that I will seek the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God," end quote. That sounds like an oath to me. The chairman made that statement in this very room last month. But here we are today, our first big hearing, with, as you and we all know, a convicted liar, lying to Congress, a criminal. And I believe this witness is totally incompatible with the stated goal of having to seek the truth in this hearing. This is the first time in the history of Congress we have someone testifying here who has already been convicted of lying to Congress. So congratulations for being the first in Congress to do that, and Mr. Cummings as well. I can't believe we have brought this committee to its knees in terms of losing its credibility, and it's a shameful mockery of what our purpose is. I'll yield back.
Time has expired. Mr. Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just pick up on those last comments. I want to talk about a low point. How about Mr. Papadopoulos pled guilty, Mr. Manafort convicted, pled guilty to 2 other charges, Mr. Gates pled guilty, Mr. Flynn pled guilty, Mr. Pinedo pled guilty, Mr. Van der Zwaan pled guilty, Mr. Kalimnik indicted for obstruction of justice. And for 2 years, you want to talk about an agenda, my friends on the other side of the aisle refused to bring any of these people up before the committee. So today, for the first day, we have one witness who voluntarily is coming forward to testify. Your side ran away from the truth, and we're trying to bring it to the American people. So, Mr. Cohen, first of all, thank you for voluntarily coming before the committee to testify. I want to ask you about your statements regarding Trump Tower in Moscow, and I want to drill down some of the facts and details. Now, you may not be aware of it, but this goes back a ways. Back in 1987, Mr. Trump wrote that he had had ongoing discussions with Soviet officials back then to build a large luxury hotel across from the Kremlin in partnership with the Soviet Union. So at that time, it was the Soviet Union. I want to ask you, in your filing with the special counsel Mueller's office, the prosecutors wrote, and I quote, "Mr. Cohen discussed the status and progress of the Moscow project with individual 1 on more than the 3 occasions Mr. Cohen claimed to the committee, and he briefed family members of individual 1 with the company about the project." I know this is redundant, but Mr. Cohen, who are we referring to here when we refer to individual 1?
Donald J. Trump.
Okay, and the company?
The Trump Organization.
Number 1.
Through a subsidiary.
Okay. And who were the family members that you briefed on the Trump Tower Moscow project?
Don Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump.
Okay. Now, were these in the regular course of business, or did the president or family request a briefing?
This is the regular course of business.
Do you recall, there's a question on the number of briefings. Do you recall how many there might have been?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do you recall how many of these briefings there might have been?
Approximately 10 in total.
In your written remarks, you also wrote, and I quote, "There were at least a half dozen times between the Iowa caucus in January 2016 and the end of June when Mr. Trump would ask me, 'How's it going in Russia?' referring to the Russia Moscow Tower project. How did the president communicate those questions to you? Was it verbally or over the phone?"
Verbally, most of the time, virtually all of the time. He would say to me, "Michael, come walk with me." He was heading to, say, a rally, to a car, and as I would walk him to the elevator, he would ask me questions quickly regarding a series of
Could there be any
issues.
doubt about what he was referring to in terms of the project in Russia?
No, this would be it.
Okay.
Otherwise, there would have been no reason to ask it of me.
Right. You also wrote, and I quote, to be clear, Mr. Trump knew of and directed the Trump-Moscow negotiations throughout the campaign and lied about it, close quote. How did the president actually direct the negotiations? What details did he direct?
Well, after each communication that I had, I would report back to him, and our goal was to get this project. We were interested in building what would have been the largest building in all of Europe. Sir, I just if I can say one last thing
go ahead.
with regard to the gentleman's statement, since this is on topic. The lies that I told to Congress, in fairness, benefited Mr. Trump. It was in furtherance of my protection of Mr. Trump, which I stated in my testimony. And I am not protecting Mr. Trump anymore. And so, while I truly appreciate taking some of your time onto it,
you never protected Mr. Trump, President Trump, or his children. You were only with him to protect yourself. You were only with him for your own financial gain. You lied time and time again. You're not credible at all. And before we end this segment and start the next segment, I want to tell you that it's clear that the Democrats have an agenda. The fuckboy house nigga Cummings approached him to come up here. He asked this liar to come up here. He asked him to come up here and stage this lie because they want to impeach the president. Why is it they want to impeach the president? This is the same party that wants to kill babies, that just voted on the bill against saving babies that survived botched abortions. The same party that's destroyed the black community voted against prison reform and is responsible for locking up all the black people they can. Elijah Cummings is a piece of shit. He's the worst kind of nigger you could ever imagine exists. Because at one point, morally, he stood up for black people. And then, he sold you out. Him, Jesse Jackson, all of them alike. That gave him a position where he would be boast into a congressman's seat, which is basically a lifetime seat to have. He would be given all the amenities that he's never had before, and this would secure his family's future for the foreseeable future. That's one hell of a severance package on being a real nigga to going to a house nigga. They've already questioned 200 witnesses. There is no fucking Russian collusion. The real Russian collusion they won't even talk about. They make it seem as if Hillary Clinton's emails weren't her emails. The things said within those emails didn't come from her. There was a man locked up for taking a picture. He's a serviceman. For taking a picture in a submarine. This bitch had a private server in a basement closet. She was the first lady for 8 years. I'm sure she knows the protocol. Then after being the first lady, she was the senator of New York State. I'm sure she knows the security protocols. Yet, to circumvent the government and transparency, the bitch puts a server in a basement closet. The FBI keeps telling you that Russia hacked it. They hacked her server. There's proof that China was inside of her server, not Russia. Nothing is done about it. There is a clear intent to destroy America. Because bringing down this president brings down over 60 million people that voted for him. It removes the protection from all of the red states that believe in the greatness of this country. And it would allow these Illuminati criminals to take control of this whole entire country and turn this shit to California. See, the reason why they get a lot of black folks, because most black folks don't travel. They don't. A lot of black people do not travel. They're not leaving where they're born and raised because they basically can't afford to. The majority of them. It's a fact. I know because I watched this Turning Point USA had to pay for hundreds of children to get to the White House because hundreds of children couldn't afford a plane ticket. Some couldn't afford dresses. They had to wear their mother's dresses or their grandmother's dresses. I came up very poor. I took my wife with me to Brooklyn. We're about to end the show now and start the next segment in about 10 minutes. And when I took my wife to Brooklyn and I showed her just where I grew up, she said, I feel so bad for you because you truly didn't have any other choice but to sell drugs. If I didn't sell drugs, I would never have the opportunity to travel. I wouldn't have seen the things that I've seen. Met the people that I met. I wouldn't have seen hundreds of tents in California with Americans living in them. If I didn't go and live in California and move to California and spend 3 years, I've been going back and forth 8 years, over 8 years, 9 years. If I didn't live there for 3 years, I would have never understood the taxation. The monopoly that PG&E has over energy production. I would have never been to their public assistance office because I did get stamps. I was getting stamps like a motherfucker. And I would have never seen all the illegals there getting aid from a government that's not supposed to aid illegals. I would have never experienced firsthand the direct racism of these individuals from these other countries. And not just south of the border, from India and China. You go to Stockton, California and show me a black-owned business. Go inside of these restaurants, show me a black waiter. Go to one of the car detail places, show me a black man working in there. I went to a tattoo shop while I was in California. And when I tell you I'm a phenomenal tattoo artist, I'm not even tooting my own horn, I'm a bad motherfucker with my ink and my gun. My ink and gun game is crazy. I had a motherfucker in there who wasn't even a citizen tell me, and he wasn't better than me. If he was, I would say there are plenty of tattoo artists that are better than me. I don't mind learning from great tattoo artists. But I had him tell me that I needed more work under my belt. I've owned 3 tattoo shops in my lifetime. I have tattooed well over 1,000 individuals. And not counting in prison. Not counting in prison. He couldn't set up my ink caps. He didn't do portrait work. He never even tattooed black skin. He's never seen color as exuberant as I've made it in black people's skin. Never. But yet I had him critiquing my work because basically he didn't want to have a black guy working in his shop. I dated a Mexican girl while I was in California. Her family hated my guts. Her mother said the only reason why she's with me is because I got a big dick. It wasn't because I took her out of poverty, because the home she lived in had well over 8 animals, dogs alone, living in it, shitting and pissing all over the carpet. If I'm lying, may everything I love drop dead right now. May everything I love and care about drop dead right now. May the devil take my soul and God not grant me entry and forgiveness for any of my past deeds if I'm lying right now. The whole house smelled of urine and animal feces. When you walked on the carpet, your feet seeped in it. And when it seeped in it, you saw the urine in the carpet. There's roaches everywhere in that house. And a stepfather and mother had 2 illegals living and sleeping in the back rooms when they forced all 4 of their kids, girls and boys, to sleep all in the same room. And all across the United States, that's illegal. So it wasn't because I took her out of poverty. No. Because then she lied and tried to have me arrested to get back in good with her family. They said I poisoned her mind because I had a vote for Trump. I got her to vote for Trump. The dick was just that good. Okay? I've experienced racism firsthand. Her father, her birth father, an amazing guy, had no issues with me whatsoever. But her mother, who cheated on her father and used to take her with her to cheat on her father with the piece of shit that she ended up marrying, they had a problem with the nigga putting pipe to their daughter. I would often hear the negro, the moreno mono, as if I don't speak Spanish. Because they were unaware that I was half Puerto Rican and black. People, there is an effort to destroy our country, to destroy everything within. California is a shithole. They fucked up the richest state in our country. California was truly the richest state in our country. It was called the Gold Coast. People used to go to California to get rich, and now when you go there, you're poor. California used to produce more wealth in this nation than any other state. And now they're billions of dollars in debt. And one year it went from 3 million to 300 million, and now they're in the billions. They can't afford to feed the people that they have right now. Yet they claim that they're welcoming and they're going to give everyone free health care to further bankrupt the state. And if they bankrupt the state, then it will force the union to pick up the pieces. That means you and I. To what extent are people going to really wake the fuck up and see what's going on? Let's go to New York City. All the black neighborhoods are over-policed. Black people find themselves victimized by democratic policies that allow police officers to violate their rights and make up shit so black people do prison time and also catch new cases. I was attacked in New York by an immigrant, illegally here. He was drunk and came out with the car boot. He hit me with the car boot. He messed up $1,500 Gucci frames that I had on my face. and I beat the shit out of him outside for everyone to watch. The dude had to be at least 6 foot. He outweighed me by at least 80 pounds. If I'm 150, 145, I stay in between that weight class now, just for boxing purposes. You know, super welterweight. This man had to be at least 220. Remember I said I would be afraid, well not afraid, but I would be worried if someone with size knew how to fight. But most people with size that work out and get in the gym, they don't know how to fight. They use it as an intimidation tactic to have people ward off away from them. I've been fighting my whole life. I'm not intimidated by much. So after I whooped his ass and fucked him up in the streets, the police came. A sergeant came. First he kicked me. I thought his friend was trying to jump me. So as I was whooping his ass, I finally looked up and the sergeant had his gun drawn on me. Told me he watched the whole thing from across the street. So you mean to tell me you watched him come out of the store, assault me with a car boot, and you waited until I started to fuck him up to come over here to lock me up? I bailed out of jail $2,500. $2,500 for bail. I paid a lawyer $14,000 to fight a case. They knew this was self-defense, and they kept trying to push for me to cop out, or they said they was going to take me to trial. I told that bitch, let's go to trial. Because what she wasn't aware of is that I had money. I got a couple dollars. She thought, and the police thought, that I was a typical nigga. They were so upset that one of them broke my diamond earring. Couldn't break the diamond, they broke the stem on the earring. This is how upset they was. When I walked inside that police station and I told them I'm bailing out in the morning. I have no issue bailing out. And I said, I'm pressing charges on this guy. Why is he in here? They never even allowed me to press charges. I had my mom get the money to bail me out. They have still negated to give her my bail money back. This case happened last year, January. We are now 1 day away from the last day of February, over a year later. All charges were dropped against me. I ended up seeing the guy again when I was in New York, my visit before this one that just passed. My wife was on the phone with me and I seen the guy at the gas station. She's my witness. He came out and he was talking and I said, you the same pussy boy I had to fuck up. If you say something now, I'ma fuck you up. He tried to say I didn't press charges. You did. I had to bail out of jail. All the police body cam shows the man was drunk as fuck. He refused to go to the hospital that night. Why? He was drunk as fuck. But went the next day and complained of bruised ribs and lacerations to his face when I was walking around with a fucking concussion for 3 fucking weeks because he took a fucking car boot and struck me on the side of my fucking head with it. He could have killed me. If my head wasn't so hard, if I was just somebody who probably never had any combat experience whatsoever, I could have died. And the only reason why I felt I survived it was because of the adrenaline going through my body. My brother, just recently, I was at the tattoo shop. He was telling me. Police pulled him over. Finagled him out of his car. They wasn't supposed to get him out of his car. They didn't have any right to get him out of his car. They asked him to get out of his car. After searching his car, they found the pocket knife. Very small pocket knife. They charged him with possession of a weapon. Now they want him to cop out, or he's going to have to pay thousands of dollars in legal fees in order to have a lawyer to fight this case. So now he's going to take a plea because although my brother is a successful, wealthy business owner, shout out to you, Shout out to our tattoo shop. It's my brother's baby. He brought it to light. I'm just someone who was fortunate enough to get involved in his business, to be able to become part of this great dream that he had, which is Top Shelf Inc. on Utica Avenue. Shameless plug, 211 Utica in Sterling. You can go ask him yourself. But in order not to waste resources, he's ready to cop out right now and take disorderly conduct or something like that. And so he doesn't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a lawyer to fight the case. These people do not love black people. They do not love white people. They don't want men being men, raising their children. They don't want to give you the right to chastise your child and spank them when need to. But it's not child abuse to put a little boy in a dress when he's not even at age of consent for sexual consent. I have a nephew who's gay. I love him to death. I love him to death. He is a proud gay man. And he may dress flamboyant sometimes. But the one thing we never did when he was a baby is we never put him in a dress. And even when I felt in my heart that he had characteristics of someone who was a homosexual, we never once asked him to put a dress on. We never once tried to feminize him because he's still a man. He's still a proud black man. He's a strong, proud black man. He's not a sissy. Because if you touch him, that gay man will fuck you up. Because whatever you decide to do in your bedroom, it doesn't equate to how you stand as a man. Your principles, your morals, and how you conduct yourself. Hollywood has had an agenda for the longest to emasculate men, preferably black men. And they have a sick fetish with keeping black men docile and under control. Because as soon as we mobilize and we show that we're for our president, they know that hip hop culture truly runs the perception of this nation. The majority of it. And once it becomes cool again to love Trump, they know they don't have a choice. They don't have a win. All of these so-called black activists coming out against Trump now, I can show you, they were all dick riding him and wanted to be his best friend. Snoop Dogg, Spike Lee, Jay-Z, you name them. Jay-Z, only have an apartment in the Trump, I only slept in once. I'm at the Trump International, ask for me. I'm everywhere. I ain't never scared. Why would I ever care? So if he was a racist then, why were they for Trump? There's a collected effort to destroy our president so they can destroy this country. I'm not standing for it, and neither is you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay American. And remember, fuck the other side, bitch, we don't care. And we will be back. I will be back at 1:30 to have a special guest on the show. And this guest will, and the show won't be an hour show, it won't be that long, it won't be a 2-hour show like this special was. This guest will come on and tell his story on how he survived an attack on his life from an illegal alien. And he ended up shooting the illegal alien, killing him, and how he was treated afterwards. Please make sure you tune in. In about a half an hour, I'll be prepared to have my guest on. And we're going to give him a chance to hear his story. I will be having other guests on who will talk about the failure of the black community. She will be coming on soon enough to talk about the miseducation of the black woman and how it trickles down to the black child and how it's actually affecting the black community. I plan on having guests on this show that will continue to expose the truth of what's going on in our day-to-day lives. And tonight, if I don't have the special on Jen Moore's story, tomorrow we will dedicate our whole entire afternoon show to Jen Moore. I'll see you guys in a half an hour.